Very good. Finally, our dream is coming true. Coming true. Turning into a reality. Finally.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum, sir. Alhamdulillah, sir. Shall we start? Okay, sir. Okay. Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning. I, Maria Muzamil, welcome you to a truly auspicious day, wherein, under the leadership of Honorable Chairman NEPRA, Mr. Tosif Farooqi, we are holding Pakistan's first industrial cybersecurity webinar exclusively for power sector. We are very privileged to have distinguished cybersecurity experts with us, Dr. Seaman Cord and Dr. Katina Rodena. Both our experts are accomplished leading experts on industrial cybersecurity system and work with the world's leading industrial control system, computer emergency response team, also known as ICS CERT. They have published in many papers and many books on the subject. We welcome and thank you for joining us today. I request the Honorable Chairman NEPRA, Mr. Tosif Farooqi, to allow us to officially commence today's event. With your permission, sir. Thank you. We shall start our event with the recitation of Holy Quran.
अल्लाह के नाम से जो बड़ा मेहरबान निहायत रहम वाला है। सूरत अल-क़ारिआ।
अल-क़ारिआ
अजीम हादिसा।
मल-क़ारिआ
वो अजीम हादिसा क्या है?
वमा अदराक मल-क़ारिआ
तुम क्या जानो कि वो अजीम हादिसा क्या है?
यौम यकूनु अन्नासु कल-फ़राशिल मबसूस
जिस रोज लोग बिखरे हुए परवानों की तरह हो जाएंगे।
वतकूनुल जिबालु कल-इह्निल मंफूश
और पहाड़ रंग बरंग की धुनकी हुई ऊन की तरह हो जाएंगे।
फ़अम्मा मन थक़ुलत मवाज़ीनुहु
फिर जिसके आमाल के वज़न भारी होंगे,
फ़हुव फ़ी ईशतिर रादियह
वो दिल पसंद ऐश में होगा।
वअम्मा मन ख़फ़्फ़त मवाज़ीनुहु
और जिसके आमाल के वज़न हल्के होंगे,
फ़उम्मुहु हावियह
उसके रहने की जगह हाविया होगी।
वमा अदराक मा हियह
और तुम्हें क्या खबर कि वो हाविया क्या चीज है?
नारुन हामियह
वो भड़कती हुई आग है।
सदक़ल्लाहुल अज़ीम।
I request the esteemed audience to please rise for national anthems of Pakistan and Russia. Thank you. I now request Honorable Chairman NEPRA, Mr. Tosif Faruqi, to please share his opening remarks.
Who started this clapping? Please raise your hand. You'll get extended promotion. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My honorable authority members, Bahadur Saab, Rahma Saab, with your permission, let me open today's session. Mohsin Saab, we are truly indebted to you for this, making this dream true. We have been thinking about having this today's session for past few months, and here we are today. I think how many people are connected on the Zoom? 140. So 140 and almost maybe 60 around here, so around 200 people, and I'm sure this will be recorded and the knowledge will be spread all across. Many people ask me this question, seeing the agenda yesterday, why national anthems? Because in your previous seminars or webinars, you never used or never started them with the national anthems. So why? What's so special about this one? So I told them this time we are giving a warm welcome to our Russian friends who I have been told, and I'm really, really staggered with this information, that this is the first time that we are having such an industrial cybersecurity seminar come webinar. So I'm extremely indebted, thankful to all the organizers from outside, Mohsen and his team, my team in NEPRA, and especially our worthy speakers today, Dr. Kort and Dr. Rudina. So please welcome them with claps. Thank you very much. So history in making that not only we are having our first cybersecurity seminar today, this is being hosted and conducted with the help of our Russian friends. So in the honor of them having this webinar or the spread of knowledge, as I call it, we welcome them with Pakistan as well as Russia's anthem. So this is the logic behind that. Why cybersecurity? There are many reasons for that, and my team has given me this long list to read, which I'll definitely avoid reading because this is not my style. I'll just talk to you heart to heart. Out of many reasons, one personal reason of cybersecurity's special love, affection, and value in my eyes is this was my most major assignment given to my management when I was in Abu Dhabi about 4 years back. Because 4 years back, 4 or 5 years back, Abu Dhabi came up with NISA, which is National Electronic Security Agency. What they did was they classified all their national critical infrastructure projects and power projects and oil projects, oil related, all the projects in fields and refineries, they were considered as the national critical infrastructure projects. So they made a special authority or security agency to monitor their security, because there are n number of vulnerabilities these days. This word always twists my tongue. The technology, it has given us lots of kick, lots of positivities have come in our lives because of technology. But it has presented many challenges as well. The biggest challenge being that it has created extra additional risks in our life. Wherever we go, now we leave our digital dust, whether we are using our telephones, our mobiles, or any electronic devices, may be using the ATM. So all these things have put us under additional responsibilities. So it is not only on individual level, but also all the organizations who are now operating in industrial under industrial banner, they are equally exposed. World Economic Forum has this little survey whereby it reveals that 20 countries have now placed cybersecurity in their top 3 risks to their economies. And 12 of them put cybersecurity as the top, the highest risk factor for their economy. Similarly, many businesses now place cybersecurity as one of the top risks for their businesses. Should we in Pakistan just watch it from a distance or be proactive and do something about it? Because this is a clear and present danger. So we need to be very, very careful and cautious about it. So when this assignment was given to me by my management, I didn't even know the spellings of cybersecurity and what did it mean, to be very honest. So I consulted the usual guru, Google, and tried to gain as much knowledge as possible. My job was not only to represent my power plant, which was 2000 megawatts, one single entity and 160 million gallons per day water plant, but we had a place called Tawila complex, whereby two more plants were there. So I was made a representative of the entire Tawila plant to represent before the government and its entities in coming up with the regulations. So what we are trying to do here is something which we achieved in Abu Dhabi few years back. We all, got together, had lots of deliberations. Luckily, we could be able to get a fantastic consultant who had huge experience of developing regulations on cybersecurity. It's not about developing regulations, but coming up with the concept paper and doing the right deliberations, because each country has its own specific needs. Despite everybody is using the same technology, but there are some inherent peculiarities of each country. So based on that, we first came up with the concept paper, and then we drafted the regulations. I won't take any credit for that. The people who were responsible, they did that. But where our credit was that we tuned and we fine-tuned those regulations. And now I personally believe Abu Dhabi is one of the most secure country or emirate. Because I don't know about other emirates, so I would say emirate as far as cybersecurity front is concerned. And that happened only because their proactive approach. And that was very, very close to my heart when I landed here as Chairman NEPRA on 5th August 2019. This was very high on my agenda. But I was entrenched, I was pulled in so many other urgent areas that it was totally overlooked before one day. This is my conviction that everything has time and things happen for a reason. One fine morning, Imran just landed in my office and he said that there is some chap, his name is Mohsin, and he wants to come and see you. I said, what for? And he said that he wants to discuss cybersecurity. And immediately, that something that was very close to my heart, that was, I won't say it died down, but it took backbench. So it immediately revived in my mind. I invited Mohsin and his team, and we had a fantastic talk on this. And immediately I asked them, let's have today's session, which we are holding today. And the idea is very simple. We are vulnerable. Technology has put us in huge risk. Our power plants are extremely critical infrastructure for us, not only in terms of costs that we have incurred in setting up these projects, but in managing them, in taking them forward. That is all our responsibility, being regulator as well as the responsibility of the owner of those plants. So right now, I honestly feel this area is totally untapped in a sense that we have not looked into it. So what we need to do is work together today is our definitely first day that we are discussing this topic, but from this day onwards, we are going to have regular sessions on this. And now we are also engaging our partners in this, our power plants, but maybe as things hopefully ease up on COVID front as well, we are going to engage our stakeholders, our business partners, as I call it, in this room, and we are going to have further deliberations for eventual top-notch regulations to protect our vital assets. That's what the idea is. This is not something which NEPRA, being regulator, is trying to impose on anybody. This is our job, not only having electricity assets, generation assets or transmission assets or distribution assets is vital, but keeping them safe. Like when you come to the office, HSC plays its role. Suhail must be sitting here. Yeah, Suhail's job is to make sure that all of you who come to the office, they return to their families safe and sound. And this happens, one such Suhail is everywhere in all the plants, taking care of the HSE side of those plants. Now, not only the health of or the safety of an employee is critical, so is the infrastructure on which he or she is working. So we are going to make sure that we have the right regulations to protect our infrastructure. So with this, I again welcome our worthy speakers, and I will probably come again at the end of this session to formally thank them for this. But let me not take more time. I would like our experts to just give us their talk. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would request the webinar attendees to use raise the hand option for questions. And ladies and gentlemen, you can also type your question in the comment section of Zoom. Now, without further ado, we invite our first guest speaker, Dr. Seaman Court, who is the Principal Security Analyst and ICS CERT Specialist. He is a PhD in cybersecurity with over 26 years of experience. He is the main author of Industrial Cybersecurity Awareness course, and he regularly delivers lectures on industrial cybersecurity to industrial employees around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Seaman Court. Over to you, Seaman.
Good day, everyone. Today we are going to talk about industrial cybersecurity basics. We will try to assess the relevance of problem of cybersecurity in the industry and consider several topics related to the protection of industrial networks. The presentation materials are based largely on research carried out by Kaspersky ICS CERT team. On this slide, you can see the main topics of our presentation. Consider the statistics characterizing the current state of a problem. On next slides, we present the findings of an analysis of statistical data obtained using the Kaspersky Security Network, a distributed antivirus network. The data was received from those KSN users who gave voluntarily consent to have data anonymously transferred from their computers and proceed in according to the KSN agreement for the Kaspersky product installed on their computers. On this slide, you can find an estimate of a number of attacks on industrial systems that were detected by Kaspersky Lab software. Beginning in the second half of 2019, we have observed a tendency for decreases in the percentages of attacked computers, both in the ICS and in the corporate and personal environments. In first half 2020, the percentage of ICS computers on which malicious objects were blocked has decreased by 6 percentage points to 32%. I think these data are correlated with COVID situation in the world, and these data are derived from COVID situation. The map on this slide shows the percentage of industrial automation systems for each country in which malicious objects were blocked, relative to the number of this system in that country. The number was highest in Algeria and lowest in Switzerland. The most significant increase in the percentage of ICS computers where malicious activity prevented occurred in Greece. On this slide, you can see this. And Finland and Portugal. Despite the overall tendency for percentages of attacked computers to decrease, you can see the number grow in the oil and gas sector and for computers used in building automation systems. These numbers are higher than the percentage around the world. But you can see on the slide that ICS computers are attacked in all industrial sectors. The internet, removable media, and email continue to be the main sources of threats in the ICS environment. Predictably, the percentages in the ranking for these threats have decreased. In this year, and this is also correlated with COVID situation. And now take a look at real attacks. There have been many publications in the press about attacks on industrial enterprises. Here are some recent examples. In this slide, you see an example of a complex attack on industrial plants. The attack used a wide variety of offensive weapons. Here you can see Eternal Blue exploit, water Holland and dictionary attacks. The good example of dictionary attacks is a Mimikatz program. And this attack hits enterprises in different countries and in various sectors of the economy. This attack, Muddy Water, which was conducted by Muddy Water Group, focus on government and telecom targets in Middle East. Muddy Water first surfaced in 2017 and targeting a large number of organizations. Muddy Water Group attackers deploy a variety of tools and techniques to implement the attacks and complete the victim infiltration and data exfiltration. Examples of such tools include multiple download execute tools and REDs, and they were written in C# and Python and different script languages. And the main target of this attack were Pakistan and Turkey. And on this slide you can see this example of malware, so-called poet-red malware attack. This attack is an example of a COVID attack It is a previously unknown remote access Trojan, which used Microsoft Word documents, and these documents have a COVID related situation in the Azerbaijan, and they were malicious documents, and this document this malware, which was dropped by this malicious document, was written on Python language. On this slide, you can see data about ransomware. This is a popular malware in the modern world and well-known cybersecurity threat. Ransomware is a type of malicious software designed to block access to a computer system until a sum of money is paid. On the slide, you can see figures which demonstrate a ransomware attack on industrial control systems. In the case of industrial system, impact of blocked access could be huge, and the industrial system is a big price for intruders. On this slide, you can see the geographical distribution of ransomware attacks across the world. WannaCry malware is the most famous ransomware attack. WannaCry malware is based on eternal vulnerability in Microsoft software. Microsoft produced the patch of this vulnerability in March 2017, and exploit for this vulnerability was publicly available in April 2017. But many systems were unpatched, and in May 2017, the mass infection occurred. The attack hit the whole world, and the distribution of malware across industrial enterprises is shown in the figure. But WannaCry attack is still alive. According to our statistics, among all users of Kaspersky products who were attacked by ransomware Trojans in 2019, over 23 persons were attacked by WannaCry malware. For industrial organizations, the proportion of users attacked by WannaCry in 2019 to all users attacked by ransomware is more than 35%. Our analysis shows that many old unsupported by Microsoft versions were attacked by WannaCry malware. These attacks were blocked by Kaspersky software. And now we will take a look at the mechanisms of attacks on industrial systems. First of all, the objects of an attack is an industrial enterprise. The so-called para enterprise model is shown on this slide. This model consists of 6 levels and separates the production and information enterprise segments. In ACS, intruders often try to attack lower levels of this model. His target is to violate the production process. And the safety subsystem is a desirable target for an intruder. This has been shown in the Triton malware. Also, this model helps to design enterprise network. It's a good idea to make network segmentation and protect production levels from uncontrolled access from information segments. So we can divide IT and OT protected objects. An intruder can attack them both, but OT objects should be protected separately. Who can attack our system? This is the first question to ask when designing a security system or an industrial plant. This table shows the different type of intruders. with different knowledge and capabilities. And first task for the protection of industrial system is to define the intruder level. And also you should understand what's mean malicious program. Intruders use a variety of malicious program to carry out attacks. Some popular types of malware are shown on this and next slides. Virus and worms, Trojans, ransomware, also backdoors, or downloaders, malicious backdoors, or downloaders, and different malicious utilities. So our next topic will be industrial system vulnerabilities. Usually, an attack is based on a system vulnerability. For simplicity, vulnerability is a bad system characteristic that can be used by an intruder for an attack. On this slide, you can see different types of IT system vulnerabilities. The same vulnerabilities exist in ICS systems. And on this slide, you can see different types of vulnerabilities discovered in ICS hardware and software in 2019. The most popular and dangerous vulnerability type is buffer overflow programming error. But on this slide, you can see the information about vulnerabilities discovered in different ICS components. Many researchers continuously try to find vulnerabilities in ICS components and make our wall secure. And industrial systems may have special reasons for vulnerabilities. The industrial system has a long lifetime. So it could be composed of different devices that use different technologies, and they should be compatible. And this is a source of security problems. Old systems were designed without thoughts about external connections and the internet. But now they should work in a hostile environment, and this could be insecure. IT vendors have a big experience with vulnerabilities and security development, but OT vendors are at the start of a long path for design with security in mind. Often workers at industrial enterprises underestimate the importance of security behavior and become a weak link in the chain. Management is trying to save money on monitoring tools and does not see attacks on the system. These similar technologies and devices used in the industrial system can lead to vulnerabilities due to the need to ensure compatibility. All systems were designed without thoughts about intruders. They were designed without security understanding. And network protocols are derived from 20th century industrial protocols. And this should be compatible due to the wide usage of all devices in the modern world. And this is a source of vulnerability. Modbus for serial online and TCP IP Modbus is a good example of the compatibility problem. The most dangerous practice is incident hiding. Someone can try to hide the information about the incident due to the fear of our reasons. And this is an unacceptable behavior. And eliminating vulnerabilities should be a collective task. All users should understand the importance of this task. To do this, a security policy must be implemented in the system. All users should know and apply its rules, and they should not arbitrarily change the system configuration. They should not disclose system configuration details to anyone. Users responsible for security should correctly configure the system, document the settings. After that, they should periodically search for vulnerabilities on time to eliminate threats. And our next topic is social engineering attacks. Social engineering attacks are often the main target for industrial network invasion. All industrial users should be aware of this threat and be able to recognize malicious messages. This slide shows the channels through which social engineering attacks can be carried out. In this presentation, we will look at social engineering attacks using email. This slide shows the results of a successful phishing attack, executing malicious code or stealing confidential user data. The typical phishing message must contain information that prompts the user to take action. The message can promise a reward or threaten punishment in the event of user action or inaction. The letter requires immediate action. And also, this could be a financial message, or it could be a political message. This document on the slide was included in the attack on the Ukrainian power system. Also, the phishing message could be an information message, or job search message, or delivery message, for example. A typical message has three parts: a hook, why you should trust this message; a call to action, click a link or visit a site or fill form; and immediate action response, immediate action request. A phishing email never contains a legitimate sender address, or is sent from, or phishing message could be sent from a compromised server. Oh, sorry. On this slide, you can see the signs to which an email can be classified as phishing. The message must contain anonymous call for action. The message can include different links, pictures, and links attachments. And the message contains different grammatical errors and other noise information. If you are not sure where this is a phishing message, you should check the properties of the message shown on this slide. You should verify the address and attachments without clicking on them, without clicking on them. And spear phishing is a more sophisticated compared to regular phishing. In the case of spear phishing, the malicious message is composed based on information about the victim. This is very dangerous because it greatly increases the success rate of an attack. The spear phishing message is composed specially for a recipient. This slide shows how to get preliminary information on spear phishing. The collection of information is carried out from various sources. Spear phishing is a serious threat. If you suspect spear phishing, you should immediately report it to your security team. If you are not sure about the message, it's better to contact the sender via an alternative communication channel to confirm that the message was sent. So the spear phishing means that you probably under the serious threat because someone tried to compose a message specially for you. And now let's look at the specifics of security in industrial systems. This is an umbrella slide showing the reasons for differences in protection of industrial systems. Let's consider the topics on this slide in more detail. Industrial systems are cyber-physical. Therefore, they can lead to real consequences in the physical world. Accounting for such consequences is an important task in ensuring cybersecurity. As a consequence, employers who understand the industrial process must participate in the implementation of cyber defense. Communication security professionals with engineers can be challenging. Process-driven cyber protection can be specific, leading to unique solution in many enterprises. Industrial systems may require real-time control. They can require the transfer of large amounts of data from sensors. This leads to significant efforts to organize real-time protection. Industrial systems must be manageable. Therefore, the requirements for system availability become very important. As a consequence, some of the techniques used by means of protection are not applicable. For example, using restarting or rebooting the computer to update the software may not be acceptable. And robust uptime strategies for many cases are required. It's often to provide continuous and manageable solutions. And sometimes you should protect old and low power systems. They may lack of resources for functioning of a means of protection. This leads to changes in defense strategy. For example, you could have a lack of resources to run antivirus. And some systems cannot be protected with modern means. This means that a specific security policy must be developed for them. Some provisions of such a security policy are shown on this slide. For example, if you should protect Windows XP old system, this is a very specific case. Communications. Industrial network protocols began to be developed in 70s years of the last century. Security issues were not so relevant for them. Modern versions of protocols must be compatible to work with legacy devices. Requiring compatibility can lead to unsafe solutions. They must be protected additionally. The lifetime of devices in industrial systems is significantly longer than the lifetime of information technologies. This leads to various compatibility issues and vulnerabilities. Windows XP usage in modern industrial systems is a go-to example of this problem. This is unsupported by Microsoft system, so this is a vulnerable system, but this Windows XP device is a valuable device for a protection process. This device, it could be a complex process to replace this device. Expensive, maybe expensive process to replace this device. This slide shows the problems associated with attacks on legacy systems. The legacy systems could be a target of advanced APT attack, and the damages in the case of attack on legacy system could be unpredictable. And often an industrial system includes components located in remote, hard to reach sites. This is a distributed production system. And these systems also need to be adequately protected. And this could be a complex task. Let's start our discussion about the defense and depth strategy in industrial systems. There is no single solution for securing industrial systems. Consider an approach that uses the idea implemented in the defense of medieval castle. Sacrifice space in exchange for time. Imagine a medieval castle, a moat, walls, a citadel. We see various obstacles that the attacker must overcome, spending time on this. And this is the main idea of defense in depth strategy. Defense in depth implies a variety of security mechanisms implemented at different levels of system. And when organizing protection in defense in depth, you must logically represent your system and suggest appropriate protection mechanisms at different levels of presentation. You must describe your manufacturing process, your network, and individual devices, and corresponding security mechanisms. You should also analyze how your protection system works as well, protect against various threats. On this slide, you can see various techniques that are advisable to use to organize defense in depth. Summarizing the above, we can propose the following organizational and technical measures to protect the industrial systems. On this slide, you can see different technical measures. Now let's look at the basic tools for ensuring network security in industrial systems. The main device for protecting a network is a firewall. It serves to control access to the enterprise network from outside, as well as to segment the network. On this slide, you can see a typical industrial network structure. This is a typical structure, and you can see two firewalls on this picture, firewall 1 and firewall 2. Firewall 1 protects the network from outside attacks. Following informational segment, the following informational segment of the network, such as accounting, enterprise management, etc. In a separate segment called DMZ, the enterprise servers accessible from outside are taken out. Firewall 2 segments the network, separating the industrial segment from information segment. This separation could be mapped to previous review with para model. Servers used in the industrial segment are used by the operator, and they are located in a separate segment. It's so-called industrial DMZ. Industrial devices are in a separate segment. Access control should be access control should use DMZ and implementation of network rules to control traffic between information and industrial segments. So this is a typical network structure, and this structure could be used for different industrial facilities. Industrial firewalls in comparison with general purpose firewalls should have a number of properties, which are shown on this slide. Firewall must work continuously, often in harsh external conditions. These devices should know industrial protocols, support user management without specific knowledge. Monitoring systems are very important security solution for industrial control systems. We can talk about intrusion detection systems and intrusion prevention systems. In industrial environment, intrusion detection system is a preferable solution due to the nature of industrial system and the manageability property of industrial environment. And Kaspersky laboratory has a good solution for intrusion detection system in industrial environment. Next slide, about malware protection. Malware protection should be also specific in industrial environment. This specific is derived from a manageable and continuously work property of industrial environment. So this protection should be not invasive. We can delete malicious files sometimes. We can block access for intruders sometimes. And the precision and low resource usage are the main properties of malicious solution or anti-malicious solutions for industrial environment. The current situation and problems associated with COVID makes remote access protection relevant for industrial enterprises. This slide shows typical user roles that may need remote access. It should be noted that remote access introduces some security concerns. This slide shows a downward trend in the use of remote access in industrial systems until December 2019. But in 2020, the use of remote access to industrial system is growing. An example of remote access attack is shown in this slide. The attack was related to the fact that remote access laptop was infected, and the remote access itself was organized uncontrollably. As a result, malware penetrated the nuclear power plant, and the cyber incident was threatened. When protected remote access, problems arise in securing user devices. Communication channel encryption should be used. It is a good idea that remote access users use corporate hardware and software. Typical remote access attacks are shown on this slide. The slide shows statistics on password guessing attacks on a remote access system in 2019 and 2020. And the next task, which is shown on this slide, is to build a competent security team for effective work. It's recommended to use the following principles when organizing a security service. Different types of problems, including cybersecurity threats, must be addressed in different departments and in different levels of staff responsibility. All stakeholders need to understand what a cybersecurity breach can lead to. The structure of a cybersecurity team must match the structure of an organization. Decisions are made at higher levels of organization, are implemented at lower levels. On the slide, you can see an example of organization structure of cybersecurity team corresponding to the organizational structure of an enterprise. The board of directors and the head of cybersecurity department represent the highest levels of management. Their responsibilities are shown in the figure. The headquarters staff must implement cybersecurity solutions that are global for the enterprise and coordinate the work of local departments in the case of a distributed enterprise. Their responsibilities are shown in the figure. If the enterprise is geographically distributed, the cybersecurity of remote sites should be provided by local departments. Their responsibilities are shown in this slide. The slide shows the various employers that should be part of a cybersecurity team. We can distinguish three types of employers. Their responsibilities are shown in the slide. The slide shows the challenges of organizing a cybersecurity team in the enterprise. And I should say that the cybersecurity team should be built in a collaboration of industrial engineers and cybersecurity specialists. And our last topic of the first half, incident handling. Incidents arise in the event of attacks on industrial networks. To begin with, we must develop a plan for responding to cybersecurity incidents. This should be part of cybersecurity policy of industrial enterprise. The main topics of the plan are shown in this table. And properties of each incident should be well documented, and all employees should understand this document. To begin with, we must develop a plan for responding to cybersecurity incidents. The main topics of the plan are shown on this slide. You should assign a responsible person for each type of incident. You should understand malicious and non-malicious events for this incident and distinguish them. You should identify all details about incidents that should be documented. And you should coordinate the specific personnel that should handle this incident. And these are typical steps, but unique steps for different incidents could be defined by different organizations. And when handling an incident, you need to follow steps shown on this and next slides. After incident detection, you must stop the incident and you must clear the system of the intruder. First of all, you should stop the spread of malware from your system. For example, you should block the infected part of the system. Also, you should prevent damage to industrial control system. For example, you should broke the connection between infected information segment and production segment. Also, you should define the type of malware in your system, and you should estimate corresponding risks. And also, after the system cleaning, for example, you should clean malware files, you should close backdoors in your system, you should clear intruders' accounts in your system. This is steps of cleaning system process. These are steps of cleaning system process. Afterward, you should analyze your incident. When handling incident, you need to follow the steps shown on this slide. You should understand why this malware hits your system. You should identify intruders' motivation and behavior, and you should review your system protection to prevent the occurrence of this incident in the future. Also, maybe you should do different in-depth analysis of an incident for court and for public relations, for example, if you need. And this was the last slide of my part of presentation. Thank you for your attention. It was a great pleasure to talk with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gord, for your very valuable insight. Ladies and gentlemen, now we invite our next guest speaker, Dr. Katerina Rodera. She is a leading security analyst in an ICS CERT. She holds a PhD in computer and network security and is an author of many books and chapters in ITU regulation. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Katerina Rodera. Over to you, ma'am.
Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. That's important. And let me share my screen. I really happy to join this beautiful event. And today I will continue with cybersecurity governance approach. Now you should see my screen. And let me do this, the full screen. Yes, that's better. So thank you very much, Simon, for the really dive in cybersecurity for critical infrastructures. And I'm continuing with the approach to cybersecurity governance at all levels. And let me share some background of this topic to me. Several years ago, I dived in cybersecurity governance, just interested with the research of International Telecommunications Union about how cybersecurity is approached in different countries over the world. What they did, they provided the information in cybersecurity maturity profiles for different countries. So how cybersecurity strategies are developed in these countries, how they approached cybersecurity with their regulations, which regulations authorities do they have, how they do their public-private relationships, and so on. And actually, I compared this data to the actual state of cybersecurity in these countries, as this was really worldwide for 192 countries over the world, almost for all countries over the world. We got the really interesting results. And we found out that really the approach matters, the approach to cybersecurity governance, but not only the approach, because there is no unified recipe for each country. It also matters how this approach fits the national mindset, actually. And it works for the people if it really matches the relationships between the industry and the people in that country. Then I analyzed the governance challenges for cybersecurity for critical infrastructures, also in different countries. I set up different levels of interest to governance, to cybersecurity governance, and analyzed how this works for regulations. So my conclusions, they relate to the governance at the state level, but they also relate to the governance at the level of the organization. So if your organization is big enough, you can also apply everything what will be said here to your organization. If your organization is not too big, but also requires attention because it relates to critical infrastructure, you can apply separate conclusions and approaches provided here based on specifics of your organization, because the main difference of cybersecurity for critical infrastructure is its diversity. This is not just one area. Different sectors of critical infrastructure, they require attention to different aspects. And let me start with these topics, with these governance challenges, which should be covered during setting up this regulations framework, both for the state and for the big organization and for the small organization as well. So the first level of interest is the penalty regime, because when you are saying about the regulations, when you are saying about constraints, people usually ask, what are the penalties for violations for your rules? And this is really interesting because people, they're interested in, money fines, in how serious are consequences for them personally. And this really matters. So the first is penalty regime. The second level of interest are the responsibilities for the incidents. When something happens, how important this is. The next level is identification of critical infrastructure. Which sectors and which services comprise the critical infrastructure? Am I and my organization comprise the part of critical infrastructure or not? How classified my organization is, and how serious are the regulations which are set up for me? The next topic, the next three topics and challenges, they're the most neglected, but they are the most important from my consideration, because the countries which pay attention to these three topics. They are the most successful with their regulations of cybersecurity. These challenges are first, the governance structure for cybersecurity. The next, I'm sorry. The next are the proper boundaries for the state interference in cybersecurity of different sectors. And the last one, but the most important, is how aligned cybersecurity strategy is with the national mindset, with how people approach their responsibilities, their personal responsibilities for the security of critical infrastructure. And this is really different for different countries over the world. This is interesting to compare the cybersecurity strategies and see how they work. So you can just take, for example, the cybersecurity strategy for Japan, who are pretty successful with their approach, and apply it somehow, because this probably will not work for you and for your people. The same to Russia, the same to the US and Canada and all other countries over the world. So you need to find your approach, and I will provide some insights how to do that. But let's start with the penalties, because this is the first level of interest. How penalties work for cybersecurity of critical infrastructures, and are they effective? Let me give you an example. One time, 2 years ago, NARC, which is North American Electric Reliability Corporation, they are responsible for reliability and cybersecurity of the electrical grid over the North America, including the US and Canada. So they issue their recommendations for reliability and cybersecurity to follow, and they are obligatory for all the energy companies in this territory. For the non-compliance, they can apply penalties. They can apply money fines for this non-compliance, and they leveled a $10 million fine against an energy firm in the US. They cleared in their report the name of this firm, but it is known, this is the Duke Energy Company. You can find the whole story by this link. And such a big fine was because they say the violations at this company, they put the bulk energy supply at risk. So many of violations involve long durations, multiple instances of non-compliance and repeated failures. And if you really dive into this report, you can see that there were just the organizational issues, not the technical. No incidents with power supply at this territory, no serious consequences, but something was wrong. And they applied these high fines, and they applied some other fines for other companies. They do it all the time, just requiring to follow their minimal requirements. If you take these NARC CIP regulations and compliance requirements, you will see that they are just about organization, not about technical measures. They do not say anything about prevention of incidents, prevention, probably malware. There was also a petition about including anti-malware measures into these regulations, but they didn't. Actually, these fines they applied for the violation of very basic things. So this works only in the given sector, only for the electric grid, not even for the whole energy sector, only for the electric grid. Only at the particular territory, and only for the really organizational measures, not technical. Why this is so? Because you can't apply all the measures to the objects of critical infrastructure without dependency of the sector and particular purpose of the system and organization. Because sometimes cybersecurity measures, they constrain functioning and they may lead to failures as well. So you really need to consider the constraints. And given all the constraints, you can't apply the same rules and policies for penalties over the whole critical infrastructure. So introducing fines for violations let me repeat that. Introducing fines for violations just doesn't work for the whole critical infrastructure protection. The opposite example is GDPR case. You know that there is a GDPR law which is applied over the whole world. It's exterritorial and actually some fines, they are huge, they applied to different organizations. But the difference is that GDPR is about privacy, which has really clear criteria to apply. Do you have consent from people to handle their private data or not? And how do you handle their private data? And this is very clear. So you have the clear criteria for applying this penalty regime, and you can do that. It is established and it is applied successfully, but this does not work for critical infrastructure. So how to approach these fines for critical infrastructure? Set up the minimal requirements and only for the separate sectors which are highly critical, such as energy. And there you can check the rules of cyber hygiene, how they fight malware, how they fight phishing, all the examples Simon given in his previous talk. You can consider them, set up the simple rules and check them, but not more. And as you probably understood from Simon's speech, this is not enough. You need go further with your measures and apply fines only for the minimal measures and violations for them, for the only simple things. So the next step is to distribute the responsibilities for the incidents, because incidents will happen. And you need to prevent them and you need to respond to incidents. Usually, the specific team is established to fight incidents, to get the notifications about incidents, handle them, respond to them, inform everyone who is responsible for further steps. And this is usually called like CERT or CERT or CERT team, depending just on your choice. At the national level, sometimes they are called national cybersecurity centers, and their role is also to respond incidents. This is like the emergency team. Several years ago, about 5 or 6 years ago, the International Telecommunication Union applied an effort to establishing the national computer emergency response teams over the world for all the countries. They facilitated with their approach setting up CERTs. So many countries had their CERTs, and actually could be considered like a really successful initiative from the ITU side, because the number of CERTs, it was pretty high, and almost all the countries had their CERT. But in 1 or 2 years, I checked how these certs, they really work. And this is sad, but even the websites of most of these certs established with the support of ITU, they didn't work. They didn't really work for the incident response. You couldn't contact them. The emails wasn't checked by anyone. And actually, this gives us also other bright example. People need to understand what is required from their side to make this incident response work. First, they need to understand what is incident and to which organization this incident notion may be applied, how to recognize and what to do. So you need not only to support your national CERT, but also to issue the recommendations on incidents. The guidebooks, the cookbooks, everything supporting people in their everyday work. You need to support their awareness about the new and the newest attack vectors, the techniques and tactics applied by the hackers, about the trends. So this also requires not day by day routine work with incidents, but also the research work. They need to do this research to just to understand, to know what to expect and how to expect. And they should work in collaboration with all other authorities. So currently, there is a trend from going just for the state CERT to the CERT network, because the most successful work in collaboration of national CERTs and CERTs from companies like ours, like Kaspersky ICS CERT, with CERTs of other countries. And this is also described by the regulations, by the NIS directive applied, for example, over the European Union, how to establish these relationships between different CERTs. The most successful for the moment, which I know, is participation in the forum of CERTs, which is called FIRST. And Kaspersky is also the part of this first forum. We've got a lot of useful information from our colleagues from there. And actually, this really works. You need also to establish your relationships with vendors and their incident response teams and so on. This works if it is established at the regulations level. So you need the regulations for these sorts and their relationships and exchange of the information at this level. So the next challenge to address is to identify the critical information infrastructure and operators of essential services, to classify them by their importance. Let me give you an example. One of the most successful programs for critical infrastructure protection is in Germany. It is called CRITIS. It is in force for many years. They divide the critical infrastructure into sectors, and inside which sector they have responsible authority for this sector. But they also have the BSI regulator who is responsible for coordinating them and who is responsible for keeping this all together. So understanding which sectors are in your economy, probably one of the most important steps for making the efforts toward security from the perspective of your national economy. What is the most important to you? Probably this is energy. Usually this is energy and water. Probably this is information technology and transport. Probably you need to control media and culture. And this also depends on your national specifics and your national mindset, what is important to you. And the successful collaboration with the operators of different sectors of critical infrastructure is the key to the successful regulations at this level, because you will separate the responsibilities and duties between the high-level regulatory authority and authorities for different sectors of even of economy, not only of critical infrastructure. Then next, and really connected to the previous one, is setting up the governance structure. Usually having just one regulatory authority for the whole cybersecurity of critical infrastructure is not the good approach, is not the working approach at all. You need different authorities which are responsible for different aspects of critical infrastructure protection, and also organized in several levels. The central level, the level of sectors of responsible authorities. Here on the slides, you can see different citations from regulations of different countries. This is NISA Good Practice Guide, which is not the law, but the guide valid at the territory of European Union. This is Russian law about the security of critical infrastructure. This is the Chinese law, cybersecurity law, and they all say the same thing, that continuity and complex approach to cybersecurity, they should be implemented through the collaboration of responsible authorities for this critical infrastructure protection. During my research from this ITU cybersecurity maturity profiles, I identified 3 approaches to making up this governance structure. First approach is main responsible authority. You have the main authority covering all the sectors of critical infrastructures and controlling everything. This is applied in several countries. The second approach is coordinating body. You have sectors of critical infrastructure like energy, like water supply, transportation, whatever. And you have the coordinating body, but not fully responsible for all the aspects of protection. Just issuing the generic recommendations, but also relying on the responsibilities of operators. And the last approach is subsidiary authority, when you have like a council for your cybersecurity protection, not regulating, not applying the laws, but providing recommendations how to implement the cybersecurity measures, issuing the guidelines for cybersecurity, and monitoring the overall situation. This is also applied. And if you are interested in which countries, you can just follow the link. This is my research, I think you will find out in which countries different approaches work. And that's interesting thing, but into years after this research, ENISA issued their own research on different approaches to governance structuring, and this is the same. You see, this is really repeats what has been said already. The first approach, public agency covering everything. The second approach, council, which I called coordinating body, and the last approach, working due to public-private relationships, actually, with the involvement of this council. And this is also the approach which is shown by other analysts, not by me, but you see that this is the same idea. Which approach to apply? This requires the thorough consideration of how this works for the particular country, how this works for similar countries with the similar mindset, probably at the same territory. And this requires the separate talk, because that's a lot of insights behind that. What also needs to be done, to be said here, is that interagency collaborations is also the key to success, because you can't just separate everything. You need to align the activities in critical infrastructure protection from different agencies and regulatory authorities responsible for different things. The most bright example is collaboration with your national CERT. The next challenge, which is also neglected somehow, is setting the clear boundaries for the state interference into the critical infrastructure protection. Actually, this is about where is the border between the responsibility of operator and the responsibility of the state. This may be clearly illustrated with the design basis threat, the approach which is applied in the nuclear industry. This is issued by IAEA, the main authority in the world responsible for the safety of using the nuclear energy. And what they say, different threats, they require different capabilities of attackers, and they require different efforts to withstand these threats. Low threat capabilities may be withstood and mitigated at the level of operator with the pretty simple measures. The high threat capabilities, they require involvement of the state. So there is the border between different level of capabilities where the role of the state become prevailing. And this should be clearly defined at the state level. This is what is required from the state to protect the citizens from the high threat capabilities, from the very serious threats. This should be really clearly described for the nuclear energy. This is the recommendation of the regulator. Usually this design basis threat has the public open part, and some part of it is confidential because this is national secret. What comprises this serious threat which require involvement of the state into protection? So you need to find the balance, not only for nuclear energy, also for the just energy infrastructure, also for the water, for all the critical sectors of your economy. You need to find this balance, whether you want the tighter CIP management, including prohibitive fines for violations, as we said, similarly to GDPR, including the penalty regime for stakeholders at all levels, shortened incident response time frame, and this may constrain the measures which are applied by the operator by himself, because he can find the optimized way to withstand some threats. And if these threats are not so serious, Probably this will also save the money, save the economy. This will apply less resources to protect, but you need to transfer this responsibility to the operator, not to take everything on the state. And thus you go to the decentralization of your critical infrastructure protection. You go to this subsidiarity, empowerment of the separate sectors of critical infrastructure. This will also work and save the resources, save the efforts, because this distributed approach may be implemented in a shorter time frame, because this is not possible to do everything only by the one regulator. So find the balance. This is important. And to find this balance, you really need to establish public-private partnership. You can see the example, the changes in Dutch national cybersecurity strategy regarding the public-private partnership, because people can really contribute to security if they consider it important. They can contribute to the coalitions with the state authorities. They can facilitate capacity building. They can apply their own risk-based approach according to the specificity of the particular sector. They can implement, and this is pretty important, awareness and understanding of the real threats in their sector. So this will require the involvement of the people. But just one important thing, this should fit your national mindset, how people really involved in cybersecurity protection in your country. Consider from the level of organization. I can give you an example about Japan, when people personally responsible for every aspect of working the system. There are people work at the same place for decades, so they know everything about this facility, about security and safety and all the aspects. They can see the small changes at the screen, illustrating how the process goes, and identify the violation. Not depending on the reason of this violation, they can do that because this is their responsibility, and they feel themselves personally responsible for everything what can happen to this system. And this also works at the national level. They do not separate safety and security for their industrial facilities. They have the same word for it. And they do not say apply cyber hygiene and prevent malware and prevent phishing, whatever. They say increase awareness of people at your facilities about the probable incidents, and people will do the rest. This works because they think in such a way. And this probably will not work in Russia, as I understand. This will work partially for the part of the people, but not for the rest. So we need to introduce the other measures and take the responsibility back from the people to the state and to the authorities. And this is not good and not bad. These are just different countries. So aligning this strategy with the national mindset is probably the most important thing to increase the maturity of your approach applied to critical infrastructure protection. This is really hard to say. What does it mean to be secure for everything, for nuclear facility or for the production line or for the smart vehicles? Everywhere we have different criteria. But what is the same is the major approach. We need to understand what is reasonable security and what is the reasonable approach. We can apply the rigid requirements, but they will be not so specific. So they will not work, and we need to transfer this responsibility to the sector. And specificity of some areas which may constrain the implementation of security measures. It is known to the operators. So let them provide their insights for that. And then you will be able to say, to guarantee that the system is secure enough, the organization is secure enough, the sector is secure enough, and the whole critical infrastructure is secure enough, making up this diverse system from its parts. Security is actually not an incentive. It doesn't, it does nothing to business. When I Googled what is security as a business incentives, Google said that companies have little incentive to invest in cybersecurity. And guess what was the next link? Why business have no incentive to invest in cybersecurity. So approach this through the responsibility, not through the economic incentives. And this is pretty hard from the economy perspective. How to say people do what they don't have to do for their business or for their mission. And this works for the cybersecurity of critical infrastructure as well. Here we should apply other approaches, which are called behavioral approaches. And one of such approaches, nudge, it is successfully applied in the area of safety. When you just say people to follow some instructions, to wear the helmet, to be safe, to follow the rules at their workplace. The same for cybersecurity. Just use the proper approach to make people follow the lines, follow the proper lines of cybersecurity. Do not allow people to follow the phishing links. Do not allow people to run unknown executables from the really low level of implementation. And at the high level of implementation, listen to the people and hear from them what is on their mind and see the reaction. If you see that regulations are not implemented, probably you do something wrong and you need to get back the responsibility from the people at the regulation level or transfer it instead of making everything by the single authority. Nudge and other behavioral approaches, they deserve their separate talk. And I am only giving you this picture and this link, hoping that you will try to find the additional information on it. There is a book and several books which are the basics of the modern behavioral economy. And what I see as cybersecurity specialist, that behavioral approach works really good for cybersecurity, making up the major approach to cybersecurity, to the reasonable security, which can be fixed in your regulations. At the national level, I can provide you with an example. Richard Thaler, who is the author of this nudge approach, he started with his own research together with Kahneman and Tversky, who are also recognized experts in behavioral economy. And his co-author, Sunstein, became the counselor for the President Obama in the US, in charge of nudges, in charge of applying this approach of behavioral economy at the state level in the US. And that was pretty successful. This approach, it is applied over the world, not only in the US. And Richard Thaler, he received the Nobel Prize for Economics. And currently, Personally, I and my colleagues were working on applying this security maturity-based approach, actually implementing nudge approach to cybersecurity and also to cybersecurity regulations. But as I said, that requires the additional time. So let me just repeat what was said regarding the cybersecurity governance, how to make the effective cybersecurity governance to save your economy, to save your efforts. First, provide the reasonable approach to penalties and to fines. Just establish the minimal level and check it. And fines should not be high because when you fail to apply these high fines for the minor things, this stops to work. The second, organize the authority responsible for incident response, because this is emergency team. You need this emergency team to fight emergencies. Third thing, identify the critical infrastructure very clearly. Identify all the essential services and identify those of them which require the particular attention from the state side. Probably you will consider some of them as national secret, and this is also should be done. And connected to the previous step, set up the governance structure and recognize the boundaries for the state interference. Taking this all together, you will implement one of these three schemes, main regulating authority, or subsidiary authority, or something between these approaches. And the most important, consider the national mindset, consider from the very low level which approaches work, and implement this also at the national level. This is it from my side, and I thank you very much for your kind attention. I'm Ekaterina Rudina. I'm stopping sharing the screen if you do not mind, and I will be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rodina, for a truly enlightening session. Ladies and gentlemen, now we are open for a question and answer session. Well, we were taking some questions from the Zoom audience also and some from the live audience. And I have a question that we've already received from Zoom audience. So I will address the question that I've already received. So the question is, how NEPRA will help power sectors in case of any cyber attack?
Thank you very much for the question. In fact, we at present, we are not geared to monitoring any cyber attacks. And the whole idea of having today's webinar come seminar is to come up with some prudent regulations so that NEPRA, being the Power Regulatory Authority of Pakistan, also gets into cyberspace as well. Because I recently know there was an attack on KE, cyber attack, but I don't think any regulation required them to report that even incident even to NEPRA. So I don't think that we at NEPRA has any sort of monitoring or control at the moment. So the whole idea of getting together and having some deliberations is to basically come out with prudent regulations so that we start monitoring the cyberspace as well. So from this point onwards, I think I would like my team to be engaged with our stakeholders. We will have a set of meetings. We will take their views as well, and our partners, I believe that they have a game plan, and we will develop our understanding as to, Dr. Rodina showed us three approaches. I personally believe we are going to go with the first approach, but let's not jump to the conclusions right now. Let's have very thoughtful discussions on this and take it forwards. But the idea is that, let me admit it openly, that we don't have any controls at the moment in place, but that's where we would like to see and go in maybe a few months' time or maybe a year's time, that is the time that it will probably require us to come up with the prudent regulations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now we will take some question from the live audience, and also if we have some question from Zoom audience. So, ladies and gentlemen, please raise your hand, the Zoom audience, if you have to ask the question, and then we will get back to you sequentially. No? No question. We have a raise hand. Yes, next question. Do we have any question from the live audience? Yes, we have this question from Pesco. Yes, you may ask your question.
You already sent you the questions, but my question is that whether NEPRA will work on the organization or the skill set required to implement these policies. What kind of skill set in HR, hardware and software, all these, who will work on these specifications and these requirements?
I think I've understood the question. Yeah, if the gentleman is asking what kind of skill set will be required to basically protect their organization on the cybersecurity front. Will it be a hardware or software? I believe, my friend, it will be a combination of both. And your IT team must also be having some kind of protection inbuilt in your system. But we at NEPRA level, being the regulator, we are going to come up with more stringent protection scheme with the help of our experts. And definitely then we'll try to align everybody so that we are meeting at least some minimum standards. Dr. Court or Dr. Rodina, would you like to say something? Basically, what kind of infrastructure is required for a robust protection?
Yes, I can comment on this. Actually, the qualification of your people should be different and diverse. First, you really need technical people with technical skills. And even people who do management and organizational work, they also need technical skills. They need to understand how vulnerabilities work, for example, how buffer overflow vulnerabilities work. They need to understand how internet works and the protocols, the algorithms, probably at the basic level, but they need to understand. You need one or two persons who can really deeply dive in the technical things. And that must be the surprise, but you also need the people who can organize the work and manage and arrange the activities. So on the one hand, they need to recognize the technical part, and on the other hand, they need to evaluate the efforts and arrange the activities to fight the threat or respond the incident. So at all levels, you need this organization at every facility.
Yeah, the only good news is that you can also outsource these services. I mean, like in Abu Dhabi, my experience is that we had partly some manpower available, but since we didn't have that kind of probably high level expertise in house, So instead of keeping them our own employees, we outsource these services to the specialists. So that is also an option available, because probably sometime putting up spending this kind of stuff on regular employees is probably not the best approach. So that is an option available there.
Okay, I'm sure that answers the question. Now we shall move to the next question, which is from Qaid-e-Azam Solar Power. Yes, you may ask your question.
Good morning, everyone. I am here from Qaid-e-Azam Solar. Actually, we need to ask that CSR, NEPRA has already made regulations and mechanism regarding CSR and HSE. Is also NEPRA planning for some regulations and a mechanism for cybersecurity? And do we also require to nominate persons for that as well?
Interesting point. Yes, we have very recently taken 2 initiatives in NEPRA, whereby we have come up with some requirements on part of our licensees to report on their spending on CSR, as well as their readiness on the HSE front. So yes, we would like to also include cyber attacks or cyber security in that list as well. This is a new initiative that we are taking in NEPRA, and I assure you this is for your protection and to ensure that the vital assets that we have in our country, we protect them, because having those assets is one thing, but protecting them for the life of PPA or PW or whatever arrangement you have, EPA, that is also equally important, if not more important. So we, being the regulator, we are going to ensure that that happens on ground. So we are going to engage you as partners, as well as not only, it is not a master-slave relationship, it is a very, a long-haul partnership. So we are going to develop something while taking you guys into confidence, and so that it gives the right protection to our beloved industry.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next, we have Mr. Moiz Ismaili. Yes, Mr. Moiz, you may ask your question.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would just like to comment on the first question, that from where we start. As per my experience, I would just like to just comment and advise that you can always start from a basic penetration test in your organization, and that will basically actually trigger you and give you a very starting point of the details, that where are the lackings and where we should go ahead. And these penetration tests can be done through, like Chairman Saab mentioned, from the outside experts as well, and that will help you to form an information security department with the required expertise in the organization. So that's my comment, and very congratulations for a very good informative session and this initiative.
Thank you very much, but we would like to make sure that we are ready before we do this penetration test. We don't want our units to start rolling in the opposite direction, during a test. So once we make sure that the minimum protection is there, for sure we are going to go with the test, and that will probably be a requirement and regulations to have at least like we have a net dependable capacity test, whereby our licensees have to demonstrate that their capacity is dependable to this extent. Similarly, we might have some kind of test to prove their readiness to face these challenges. Thank you.
Right.
Interesting comment, by the way.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Shokat Ali. Yes.
I request my audience to please ask questions because we have two, high-level experts. Please ask questions which are relating to both Dr. Kort and Dr. Rodina, so that they will be able to utilize their time to answer these questions. About NEPRA and our regulations, we are here. We will answer all your questions later on, but let's use the opportunity to seek some knowledge from these two experts.
Thank you. First of all, regarding the technical IT skills, I understand that we have some IT skills in our market, but my suggestion is that we need to focus on the OT skill as well, because we are now more focusing toward our critical infrastructure, and the critical infrastructure mean energy, then there are some different protocol. While defining our policies to the critical infrastructure, we should involve our people that have expertise on the OT as well. This is just as a suggestion from our side.
Good suggestion. And the whole idea of having this industrial cyber security webinar seminar is to focus on the OT, because we fully understand that all the organizations who are, and all the organizations are IT savvy and IT users, they are having fairly good protection on the IT side. But this, when we use the word industrial, it goes without saying that our focus is now on the OT side in addition to IT.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Next
thank
we
you.
have, okay, thank you. Next we have Mr. Mohsin Tufel. Sir, please precisely put your question.
Yes, thank you for your good and webinar. It's almost becoming seminar now, and it's very interesting from Pakistan to have this seminar, and it's very interesting to that we are moving towards the really good side of the industry. My question is that how we will change our mindset of Pakistani industries, that we will adopt this cyber security, because it really needs incentivized approach, and it really needs the good talent which is lacking in Pakistan, I think. Thank you for having me this on panel.
My friend, first of all, thank you very much for your wonderful comment. And the only thing I can tell you is today, all of us sitting for this webinar come seminar is a testament, it's a litmus test that mindset is changing, and it will inshallah trickle down. One thing that we need to basically send a message across, that we are not doing it for any benefit of, let's say, NEPRA being the authority. This is for the sole protection of the owners of these plants who are actually here for long haul. So these regulations that NEPRA would come up with, that is going to protect the vital assets of Pakistan, and this will benefit. This is a win-win situation for all concerned. So let me again request my audience to please ask questions for both Dr. Cord and Dr. Rodina, so that we benefit from their presence.
Okay, thank you. Next question we have from the audience.
Yes, thank you for unmuting. I just wanted to comment, to focus on the point that you can't change your mindset, because this is how do you think and how do you apply any rules in your life. So that's more the request from my side, probably, and this the comment is that changing the mindset is not possible, but use the best you have to apply the protections from the lowest levels to the highest levels. And second is focus on reasonable security for everything. And this will require from your side a diverse approach. So don't get me wrong. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next from the audience, please.
Thank you, doctors, for such a wonderful presentation. My question to you is that, as specifically to the electricity sector, as we were moving towards the smart grid architecture, and mostly IP-based SCADAs are going to be come into action. What do you think the OT side and the IT side cyber security threats are merging, where we are going to the distribution generation and smart metering, where every device is sending data in a streaming? Do you think OT and IT side both will be merged, or cyber security will be merged in case of smart grid architecture?
Dr. Dena, did you get the question?
Yes, I can get, and I see that Non is signing that he can get the question as well. Could you please unmute him?
Okay, my question is that specifically to the electricity sector, as we are moving towards the smart grid architecture. With the smart grid architecture, most of your SCADAs will be IP based, and smart grid has its own layered structure. Will there be a separate cybersecurity attacks in that case, or either there will OT side of that smart grid architecture and IT side is merging in cybersecurity threats, where we are also getting data from every smart meters in every minute or every 15 minutes. What do you think, how the cybersecurity landscape is going to be changed in that situation?
I think you should provide secure smart meters, a secure connection between clients and distribution organization, a firewall device between clients and distributing organization, and you should provide a DMZ solution for OT servers, for example, history server, accounting server, and protect access for them. And also should firewall communications between different distributed and generation parts of this system. This is a typical task. And one more thing, I think the key element, as you said, in cybersecurity is a collaboration. No one can understand that unique enterprise OT solutions and be a good cybersecurity specialist. I think collaboration is a key. I think cybersecurity measures should be implemented by cybersecurity specialists, but restrictions on measures should be stated by OT specialists, because they know unique environment, and the safety is first. The safety of production is first. This is a key solution. No one can sacrifice a functional safety to the cybersecurity. If cybersecurity measure breaks safety of production, this is an unapplicable cybersecurity measure. And the key solution is a collaboration. The collaboration between government and enterprises, the collaboration between employments and enterprises, between OT and IT specialists, and the clear and well-defined way of collaboration is the key element of the cybersecurity, I think. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Mr. Suhaib Nomani. And due to time constraint, this will be our second last question. Mr. Suhaib, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
First of all, I would really appreciate NEPRA on behalf of my entity to introduce each asset with the vulnerability of cybersecurity. I think cybersecurity word, and to initiate some regulation. I know it would be very early to ask about it, but I would be specifically asking that how soon are we expecting the regulation development? And secondly, would there be a specific criteria set up by NEPRA for the team to be set up from the operator side? Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for the question.
Am I clear?
I may answer on behalf of NEPRA. We are in process of formulating the regulations, and we will inform and we will collaborate with our licensees regarding that, and you will be kept in touch in future. Thank you.
Thank you. So our last question will be from Mr. Muhammad Umar.
Assalamu alaikum. I would like to thank all the speakers and the NEPRA's management for their valuable input. As they say, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So I think this is a very important step. So my question is basically in two parts. For the speakers, can they give examples of cybersecurity equipment and provisions within the EPA or PPA based on their experience? The second question is for NEPRA. Collaboration on cybersecurity equipment and provisions with NTDC and NPCC would be a first stepping stone for existing projects, especially wind farms. That's my question.
Yes, thank you. Could you please repeat once again, because I couldn't recognize some words from your side. Probably the connection get lost.
Sorry, can you hear us, Dr. Rodina?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Can you please repeat the question for the experts? Basically, you wanted to ask what equipment would be required for the cyber security, if I have understood this question right. Yeah.
Mr. Omar, could you please ask your question again?
Let me answer the bit he asked about NEPRA. He mentioned that NTDC, which is our transmission company, and NPCC, which is our the system operator, they should be the first ones, and I fully agree. But there's no first, there's no second. Everybody who's in this industry, they have to manage themselves. They have to come up with their own cyber security protection, because everyone who has IT and who has OT based infrastructure, they are vulnerable. So we are not going to probably put any timelines that this has to be done first or that has to be done first. I think once we come up with regulations, we are going to engage all the parties, may it be generation companies, may it be transmission companies, or may it be our distribution companies, because we believe all of them, or all of us, are equally at risk. So we have to go together in this.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Omar, could you repeat the other part of the question if you're here with us? No. Okay, so thank you everyone for the questions. Now we come to the end part of our seminar. We thank our wonderful presenters for the information that they share and interesting talk. And we thank our attendees for their active participation. Now, I request the chairman, NEPRA, Mr. Tasif Farooqi, to bring the event to an end by sharing his closing remarks.
Yeah. Am I at liberty to say a few words
Sure.
from here? I only wanted to just say thanks to Dr. Cord and Dr. Rodina for their wonderful insight. They have really educated us and our audience on today's topic, which is very, very critical. And as it was revealed earlier, this is the first such webinar come seminar on this topic of cybersecurity, especially in the industrial space. So we are grateful. This is definitely our first such interaction, but hopefully not the last one. So on behalf of NEPRA and all concerned, I formally thank you and hope to see you again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mohsin, for arranging this, and my team, IT side, for actively participating in this and managing everything so well. Thank you very much. Ji. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. We again thank the chairman, NEPRA, Mr. Tasif Farooqi, for leading the breakthrough in the industry of cybersecurity in Pakistan. I request the chairman, NEPRA, to please come on stage for a souvenir distribution.
For our experts, we have souvenirs for you. which unfortunately we can't deliver you online. So we are going to hand it over to Mohsin, and I hope he will arrange to send it to you, and you will receive it wherever you are. By the way, where are you guys? Where are you talking to us from? What's your location right now? For example, Dr. Rudina, where are you?
Yes, I'm in St. Petersburg, in Russia.
St. Petersburg. And where's Dr. Mohammed?
I'm too. St.
Oh,
Petersburg.
you too. Okay, all right. Right. So
Okay.
hope you will receive your souvenirs there. So can you please come on the stage?
Yes, please. In appreciation of
you.
his efforts and support to make this event possible, I invite Mr. Mohsin Sheikh, MD Trillium Group, to please receive a souvenir from Chairman. Thank you. I request Mr. Rehan Ahmed to please receive souvenir for and on behalf of Dr. Seaman Kaur and Dr. Katrina Rudina. Yeah, sure. Okay, thank you so much, sir. Okay, now,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Okay, thank you. Yes, sir, kindly be on the stage for a group picture. I request the authority member and the organizers of the group to please come on stage for the group picture. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.